إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, we are today 1 week away from the end of the month of Sha'ban of the year 1437. So this will be the last class for this time, which will pick up on the Friday after Eid al-Fitr, whenever that falls on the pagan calendar. Now today, we are going to be looking at the 56th surah, Surah Al-Waqi'ah. And Imam Al-Jawzi, rahimahullah, he begins this by saying, quote, Surah Al-Waqi'ah, according to the preponderant body of scholars, is a Meccan surah. This was mentioned by Ibn Abbas, Al-Hasan al-Basri, Ata, Ikrima, Qatada ibn Da'ima, Jabir ibn Abdullah, and Muqatil. Although it has been mentioned by Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu that there is a Medinan ayah within the surah, وَتَجْعَلُونَ رِزْقَكُمْ أَنَّكُمْ تُكَذِّبُونَ, and your sustenance has been given, yet you deny. Ayah 83. And Atiyah has likewise narrated the statement from Ibn Abbas regarding the surah having a Medinan quality. Allah the Exalted, He has said, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء منبثا وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثة فأصحاب الميمنة ما أصحاب الميمنة وأصحاب المشأمة ما أصحاب المشأمة والسابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون في جنات النعيم ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين على سرر موضونة متكئين عليها متقابلين. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the compassionate. When the crushing reality arrives, there is no doubt or denial of its crushing reality. It shall lay low all that has been cast is high. When the earth shakes with its grand tremor, when the mountains are grounded into powder, and they shall be spread out, and you shall be in 3 pairs. As for the companions of the right hand, who are these companions of the right hand? And as for those who are wretched and despised, who are those who are wretched and despised? There are the preeminent ones, They are those who are near to their Lord. In gardens of felicity, there are a body from the early ones, and a small body from the latter day, who shall be upon raised thrones, reclining, facing one another, and looking on. Surah Al-Waqi'ah, the 56th surah, ayat 1 to 16. When the Exalted One mentions when the crushing reality comes to pass, Abu Sulaiman al-Damashqi, rahimahullah, has mentioned that when the idol worshippers said, when shall this so-called promise be that you speak of? When is this conquest as well that you keep referring to coming? So Allah sent down this ayah. And the ayah means, when the crushing reality shall come. The crushing reality is the day of resurrection, and every sign that precedes it. So when you understand this, then you'll know why it has been said that the crushing reality also refers to the next time that the angel Israfil alayhi salam blows into the horn for the dead to arise. In its arrival, in its coming of the crushing reality, there is no doubt or lie. This is a similar language to when Allah says, لا تسمع فيها لاغية, and you shall not hear therein any vain speech. Surah Al-Ghashiyah, the 88th surah, ayah 11. This means there's no doubt about it that there won't be any vain or evil speech. Similarly, in the same vein, there is no doubt about the crushing reality coming. And this crushing reality, there's no escape from it. There's no shelter that can be given from it. There's no lie that's ever been told about its coming. It has truthfully been narrated about. It's said by Qatada ibn Da'ima and Al-Mawardi. That which is high shall be brought low. Now, this statement means that which shall be high shall be brought low refers to the fact that those who are near shall hear of the judgment, and those who are far shall hear of its coming. And this is proof that the blast that shall bring in the day of resurrection shall not only lower the people, but also bring in from near and far those. People will be lowered, others will be raised. This was mentioned by Ibn Abbas. So some will be lowered to the lowest of low in the great fire, while others shall be raised to the highest heights and palisades in the paradise. When the earth shakes with great tremor, and that is when everything that was built upon it shall be destroyed, and the mountains, whatever is on them, shall likewise be destroyed, and everything living shall die, and whatever is in the belly of something living shall come out and also be dead. The mountain shall be grounded into powder. The commentary from Ibn Abbas and Mujahid and Ibn Qutaybah is meaning that it shall be crushed to the point to where it becomes like powder or dust, and nothing remains of it. Now, some of this we've mentioned in Surah Al-Furqan, the 25th Surah, 23. It was mentioned by Ibn Qutaybah. And so when the mountains are crushed into this powder, that shall also be blown away as if it was never there. And you shall be وَكُنْتُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, although when in the past tense it's for emphasis, you shall be of three groups. And then it starts with the companions of the right hand. Now, the companions on the right hand include 8 categories of people. The first of these 8 categories of people are those who were on the right side of Nabiyuna Adam alayhi salam, when humanity was pulled from his back. This was said by Ibn Abbas. The second category are those given their books in their right hand. This was mentioned by Abdur-Rahman and Al-Qurzi. The third is those who have been blessed, as said by Al-Hasan al-Basri and Al-Rabi'ah. Number 4, those who were taken from the right hand side of the back of Nabiyuna Adam alayhi salam, said by Zayd ibn Aslam. Number 5 is those who are waiting on the right hand side at the resurrection. Those who are waiting at the right side at the resurrection. This is mentioned by Maymun ibn Mahran. Number 6, this is the people of paradise in general, as said by As-Sudai. Number 7, those given the highest portion of the paradise. This was said by Az-Zajjaj. And number 8, those who shall be taken by the right hand and led to paradise. This was mentioned by Ali ibn Ahmed and Naysaburi. Now, when the Exalted One says, and what are the companions of the right hand? Al-Farra said that he, Allah, filled the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with wonderment regarding them. Meaning, which noble thing are they? As the Zajjaj said, this wording in Arabic being used is to convey a sense of wonderment. And Allah has conveyed this to give His slaves that, so they understand the rank of the matter in front of them. For example, when He says, Mal Haqqah, and what is the sure reality? Surah Al-Haqqa, the 69th Surah, ayat 2. Or Mal Qari'ah, and what is the great clamor? Surah Al-Qari'ah, 101st Surah, ayat 2. Ibn Qutaybah said the likeness of this is he's saying it is the same as when someone will say in speech, Zayd, and oh, what about Zayd? Meaning, what a man that Zayd is. So he, Allah, is saying, and what about the people of the right hand? Then He mentions the people who are wretched, who are destroyed. Now here, the people destroyed, mash'ama, is referring to another form of the word shimal, which is those on the left hand side. Those on the left side, because there are those on the right hand, because maymana refers to right, and those on the left, because the Arabs, they call the left hand side the shu'ma, and those on the left. And the easiest side of something, or the furthest left hand side of something, is the ash'am. And the closest is the right. So both these are made reference to, the right and the left, because often these expressions go back to other matters. For example, sometimes in areas called Yemen and Sha'am, these two countries, Yemen and Sha'am, are called such because if you're going to go to Yemen, which is on the right side, it's on the right of the Kaaba. And if you're going to go to Sham, Sham is on the north and going to the left of the Kaaba. So these are some of the wisdoms. The scholars of commentary say the people of the right hand are those who should be taken by the right hand, given their books in their right hand, as discussed before. As for the people on the left who have been declared wretched, they are the opposite. Those who are preeminent, the preeminent ones, refers to the preeminent towards Iman in every ummah. That's said by Al-Hasan al-Basri and Qatada. It also refers to those who faced both Qiblas, Mecca and Jerusalem, which was mentioned by Muhammad ibn Sirin. The preeminent ones also refers to the people of the Quran, as said by Ka'b, as well as the prophets, said by Muhammad ibn Ka'b. These preeminent ones also refer to those who are preeminent in going to the masjids and marching out on the cause of Allah. As said by Uthman ibn Abi Sawdah. Now, the expression was sabiqun as-sabiqun being repeated twice is done firstly for emphasis, but also those who are preeminent to the obedience of Allah, they are preeminent to the mercy of Allah, as mentioned by Az-Zajjaj. They are those near to Allah. Abu Sulaiman al-Damashqi said, near to Allah because they are in the shade of His arsh. And a body of people from the early ages and those in the latter day ages, ثُلَّةٌ مِّنَ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنَ الْآخِرِينَ. The thulla is a unnumbered body of people in the early ages and the latter ages. Now there are three groups of people that are being made reference to, that are the thulla from the early ages and the little from the latter ages. Firstly, those from the early ages include from the time of Nabiyuna Adam alayhi salam to the time of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The latter ages refers to this ummah. The second group referred to is the early ages are the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the latter ages are the tabi'un. The third statement on the matter is that the early ages and the latter day ages both refer to the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and those who would be their students thereafter. Now, as for the early ages being the preeminent group from the previous nations who were the first to believe in their prophets and became a believer, these are from the beginning time and went up until the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The reason for this is because in the beginning everyone was a believer and all believed in the prophets, and then they gradually decreased. And that was the case up until the time of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So those preeminent ones, being a gathering from the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would mean that they are those who are the immigrants and the Ansar, and those who are the Tabi'een, meaning those who were their students and their students. The third is the preeminent ones from the immigrants and the helpers, and some of those who came after, due to the fact that the latter ages weren't able to reach the first ages, and few of them were able to reach them in righteousness. As far as the raised thrones and embroidered thrones, those righteous believers shall be on them. These thrones, mawduna, also means that they're decorated with gold. It's said by Ibn Abbas, Ikrimah, who also said that they are encrusted with gold and rubies and emeralds. That these thrones are spread out, as mentioned by Ibn Abbas. Now we've mentioned some of this in Surah Al-Kahf, the 18th Surah, ayat 30. Up unto the statement where the Exalted One has said, يَطُوفُ عَلَيْهِمْ وِلْدَانٌ مُخَلَّدُونَ بِأَكْوَابٍ وَأَبَارِيقَ وَكَأْسٍ مِّن مَّعِينٍ لَا يَصُدَّعُونَ عَنْهَا وَلَا يُنزِفُونَ وَفَاكِهَةٍ مِّمَّا يَتَخَيَّرُونَ ولحم طير مما يشتهون وحور عين كأمثال اللؤلؤ المكنون وجزاء بما كانوا يعملون لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا تأثيما إلا قيلا سلاما سلاما وأصحاب اليمين ما أصحاب اليمين في سدر مخضود وطلح منضود وظل ممدود وماء مسكوب وفاكهة كثيرة لا مقطوعة ولا ممنوعة وفرش مرفوعة إنا أنشأناهن إنشاء فجعلناهن أبكارا عربا أترابا لأصحاب اليمين ثلة من الأولين وثلة من الآخرين وأصحاب الشمال ما أصحاب الشمال في سموم وحميم وظل من يحموم لا بارد ولا كريم إنهم كانوا قبل ذلك مترفين وكانوا يصرون على الحنث العظيم وكانوا يقولون أئذا متنا وكنا ترابا وعظاما أئنا لمبعوثون أو آباؤنا الأولون قل إن الأولين والآخرين لَمَجْمُوعُونَ إِلَى مِيقَاتِ يَوْمٍ مَعْلُومٍ. There shall be eternal young boys moving around these inhabitants of the paradise with cups and pitchers and a cup of a beautiful scent. They shall not depart from them, nor shall they be aggrieved. And a fruit of that which they shall make choice between, and a flesh of bird of that which they so desire. And there shall be the maidens of the Hur'in, resembling closely guarded pearls, a reward of that which they used to do. There shall be nothing heard in the felicity of the paradise of any vain speech, nor any sin. The only statement shall be peace, peace forevermore. The people of the right hand, oh, what of those great people of the right hand? They shall be in the presence of lote trees that bear no thorns, banana trees that are spread out in spread shade, and with water ever flowing, many different fruits of that which are good. There shall be no interruption of this, nor shall there be any prohibition. Spread out couches that are raised. They shall be brought anew and given these maidens that have been created anew. They have been made to be forever virgin, of noble appearance and of full developed bosom, for the people of the right hand, a gathering from those who are predominant, and a gathering from the latter day. So the people of the left, and what of the people of the left? They shall receive the scorching wind and the scalding water, and the shade shall not reach them except the shade of the fire, neither being cool nor noble or good. Before this they had abandoned the message. They were always upon the clear falsehood. And they used to say, when we are dust and bones, shall we be resurrected? Is it the case that our fathers of old as well? Say, indeed, those of old and the latter day shall be in gatherings, brought forth to the gathering place on the well-known day. Surah Al-Waqi'ah, the 56th Surah, ayat 17 to 50. Now, much of this we have already covered, but the eternal young boys are mentioned. Wildan is also a shortening of Ghilman, of youths. These are, as Al-Hasan al-Basri said, these are the young children that had no good deeds to be rewarded for, nor sinful deeds to be punished for. So they were put in this place. And they had been eternal. These are children who had been created from time eternity to be in the paradise without any change. And these children are of yet 1 year. So it's often said in Arabic of the human being when he grows and his teeth have not yet come out due to old age, that he is mukhallad, meaning still youthful. So these children are youthful, and they are moving around from place to place. They shall be carrying cups and pitchers. Now the expression kub here is the plural is akwab, the singular is kub, which is a utensil without any way to spill, and nor does it have a handle. and it can be held in the hand. This is what's mentioned in Surah Al-Zukhruf, 43rd Surah 72. Close quote. Now this is the origin of the Egyptian word kubaya. This word kub in Arabic is used throughout the Arab world, but the Egyptian kubaya, which is the diminutive of it, is where this has come from. Now the Imam goes on to say, quote, further to this, the pitchers, abariq, is the plural of ibriq, which is a utensil that has a spout and also a place where it can be held from so that the contents can be poured out. Now, I recited this ayah to my Sheikh Abu Mansur Al-Lagwi, and he said, al-ibriq. This expression, the singular, this word, ibriq, which in plural is abariq, is actually Farsi, but it's been Arabized. Further to this, its translation from Farsi is one of the two things in which it means the pathway of water, or when water is poured from a container. And this is what the Arabs had when they brought the word into Arabic in times of old. And they shall not be those who take of it shall not be harmed, nor shall they be caused to be drunken, nor shall they be drunken when they drink from that which these youths have brought them. So the things that would be drank in the earthly life might cause drunkenness. Whatever is drank from the kas or the kub. But this is not the case in the hereafter. This was mentioned by the vast majority. Part of this we've already mentioned in Surah Al-Safat, the 37th Surah 47. They shall have that which they choose, meaning they shall choose that which they so desire. Now the expression لحم طير, the flesh of the bird, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu says, now it is what might appear to the heart, what might appear to someone, the normal bird. But no, it is whatever someone might desire to eat of, and it shall become a likeness in his hands that which he desires. So this is a metaphor. And there shall be in the trees and in the tree of Tuba birds, something like of that which we had seen before. But the birds in size shall be like the size of the camels. And when a man shall desire such a thing, he shall call it, and it will come until it lands right near him. And he may be able to eat one of them. And that one that he did not eat goes back to its place. For he always has consumption. And of the maidens of the paradise, وَحُورٌ عِينٌ, Ibn Kathir, Asim, Nafi', Abu Amr, Ibn Amr recited as وَحُورٌ عِينٌ. Whereas Abu Ja'far, Hamza al-Kasai, Mufaddal ibn Asim recited as وَحُورِ عِينٌ. Whereas Ubay ibn Ka'ab, Aisha, Abu al-Aliya, Asim al-Juhdari say Wu Huran Ina. As the judges said, this occurs because there are different recitations that lend to different meanings. And they shall say, the hur, these are the maidens of the paradise. So the eternal young boys shall move around with the cups, and likewise they shall move around and indicate the flesh of these birds referenced. And likewise the hur'een shall move around. So they shall be given these things, the people of paradise. And the Hur'een. And the Hur'een are described as being like choice preserved pearls, out of the purity and perfection, and protected. And pearls that are protected and housed do not change color or fade over time, out of consistent use. So they are like pearls which stay in their natural form without fading over time or becoming pallid. This is a reward for their righteous deeds. So they move around, these young boys, with the reward of their deeds. They bring forth that which is to drink. They bring forth that which is to eat. They bring forth these women. And they shall not hear therein in the paradise any vain speech. Now we've already defined laghu and salam in Surah Maryam, the 19th Surah 62. And we've already defined the meaning of ta'thim or sinfulness in Surah Tur, ayat 23. So who are the people, how great and excellent are the people of the right hand? This was mentioned in the opening of this surah, Surah Al-Waqi'ah, ayat 9. If it said, the sinful ones, there shall not be heard anything sinful. So nothing sinful and despicable shall be heard. The water shall not stale, it shall be drank. And it follows the same pattern as when we discussed the milk in the surah before. The companions of the right hand, that is mentioned in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, the 9th ayah. We've already discussed this. Although Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu said, one of the groups of the companions of the right hand are the children of the believers. Now regarding the lote trees without thorns, the reason for this revelation is that the Muslims were looking at thorns, and they were in a valley near Ta'if. And they were surprised by the size of a lote tree. And they said, oh, if only we could have a lote tree like this. And so this ayah was sent. And this was mentioned by Abu al-Aliyah and Abdur-Rahman. So there shall be no thorns in these lote trees, as discussed by Ibn Abbas and Ikrimah and Qusama ibn Zuhair and Ibn Qutaybah. They are devoid of thorns, not because of a flaw, but because they don't require them. Also, they are great in weight, bearing large leaves, as said by Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, Al-Dhahak. As for the talh, talh in Arabic refers to banana, mows, as said by Ali, Ibn Abbas, Abu Hurairah, Abu Sa'ad al-Khudri, Al-Hasan, as well as Ata al-Khurasani, and Ikrimah, and Mujahid and Qatada, and that they shall be very large trees. Now, the question someone might ask is, why has the banana been mentioned in this aspect? The answer to this question is that the banana is of noble rank and of good smell. And He, Allah, has promised them what they know of its goodness and what they adhere to. Now, obviously, even if there's no direct comparison between that and the hereafter in this earthly life, they shall still have what their hearts incline for, in which it might be the same shape or similar shape. As far as this, they had taken in the earthly life from banana trees from their bananas as well as from their leaves. But in the hereafter, there shall be no comparison to what's in the hereafter from the trees of the paradise, from their lowest point to their highest point. There shall be shade spread out. Now, this noble shade is not affected by the presence of the sun. And of water which is flowing without interruption. Because water in the earthly life flows but gets interrupted or prevented by walls and dams, or diverted according to what the people of it so desire. This was mentioned by Ibn Abbas, Al-Hasan al-Basri, Mujahid, Qatada, and others. So it shall not be interrupted by the passage of time, because over the passage of time, waters dry up in the earthly life, nor prevented by irrigation. None of these things shall happen in the hereafter. It shall not be interrupted by passing away, nor prevented by corruption. And they shall be on raised couches for sitting, like what people normally sit on and sleep or rest in. So it is raised above the thrones in size. And it is filled with all matter of goodness. That the intent of these raised places, some have said that the intent of these raised places that people find comfort in is the firash, which are the ladies, so that they might sit and take comfort in the gaze of these ladies. And the Arabs often refer to the woman as a firash. So the expression raised firash is therefore taken to mean that these ladies are exalted in rank because of their beauty, and their beauty is greater than the beauty of the women of the earthly life. These women are also raised on account of them being raised above the impurities that women in the earthly life endure. And they are raised because the hearts are inclined towards these women, and these women, their creation is noble. And that the women of the earthly life, the believing women, are noble, but the women of the hereafter that have been created in the paradise have been created for that purpose. The women of the earthly life have come from the graves anew, as said by Ibn Abbas. And their return after resurrection is indeed what's given them a rank. And the women of the paradise are full grown, but they are virginal, as said by Ad-Dahak. And the Hur'een and their creation is they were brought forth without being given birth to by anyone, as said by Az-Zajjaj. And the Hur'een were brought about, whereas the women of the earthly life, the believers, they shall come back, and their attributes change in the earthly life. They grow old, but the women of the paradise do not grow old. And Allah said, and He made them virgins. So Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh said, no man shall find any of the women of paradise except that these maidens are pure and virginal, and that they are uruba. And this is mentioned that they are great in their love towards their spouses, as said by Ibn Abbas, Sa'id ibn Jubayr, Ibn Qutayba, and Az-Zajjaj. And that they have a longing for their spouses in the paradise that long for them, as said by Ibn Abbas, Al-Hasan al-Basri, Qatada, Muqatil, Mubarrid, and also Mujahid. That they are of noble gait and quality, as said by Ibn Abbas and Abu Ubaidah and Ikrimah. They are of righteous and good speech, as said by Ibn Zayd. Now, Atrab, we've already discussed this in Surah Sad, the 38th Surah, 52. And then Allah says, a gathering from the early ages and a gathering from the latter day ages. We've already discussed this regarding the description of the people of the right hand. And in the early ages and latter day ages, We've already discussed this in ayat 13 of the said surah. And وَقَلِيلٌ مِنَ الْآخِرِينَ, and a small body from the latter day ages. This is mentioned by Muqatil, that when this ayah was sent down and the believers heard this, the believers found from this ayah a great worry and concern that they might not be included until Allah sent down, and a gathering from the latter day ages. As said by Urwa ibn Ruwayn. So, some have said that the latter day ayah, وَثُلَّةٌ مِنَ الْآخِرِينَ, abrogates the previous ayah. But I would say such a claim here has no proof for it, because the scholars of abrogation have not agreed on this and discussed it at all. And that the discussion in the last two ayat is information that's being given. Information doesn't get abrogated. Rulings get abrogated. And that the group made reference to here is referring to a group. And this group doesn't change. There is a body in the early generations and a body in the last generations. Close quote. Now there's just an important point about Tafsir here. There are two bodies of opinion with regard to certain matters. The vast majority of scholars understand the following: that abrogation only happens in judgment. Abrogation happens in judgments. So previously, people bowed to their prophets out of respect and to kings. That's a judgment. That's a thing. But that was abrogated and stopped in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. That's an actual judgment, a ruling. But you can't abrogate news, which is what the first group of scholars says. News are things that are facts. Someone cannot say that the martyrs are the people of the paradise and then abrogate that by saying the martyrs are the people of the fire. That can't be abrogated. You can't abrogate news. That's simply not possible. The abrogation can only happen in judgments and things sent down that you do or you don't do. Something used to be forbidden, now it is required or it is permitted. Something used to be permitted or something was done and the people weren't sure and it was just a custom, then it became abrogated by revelation. That's the first opinion, which is the majority. The second position, which is the minority, is that abrogation can be in judgments as well as in news. Part of their argument rests in what are called adilla aqliya. The adilla aqliya is sort of evidences, or adilla aqliyat are evidences that they would speak of and say, well, for example, if someone says, how many troops shall I send out to battle? They said, well, send 3,000. Oh no, on second thought, send 4,000. Well, that's on news. This is something that they're giving as news. So they say this is proof that there can be abrogation in news, because someone says, well, send out 3,000. Well, on second thought, send 4,000. This is an abrogation in news. Now, the first party says, but even in your analogy, you can see that it's only abrogation in the thing. Because what's the thing being referenced? The amount of men in the army. So even from that standpoint, the first body says, you still haven't proven abrogation by news. Then they ask for an ayah or hadith as an example. And there is no explicit ayah or hadith that the second body brings. They tend to bring general evidences similar to the intellectual proof that they brought. So this is why the Imam says that his position, he's going to state his position, which is that there's no abrogation according to the vast body. There's no abrogation in news. Khabar. There's no abrogation in news. The only thing that can happen in news is it was incorrect before, or you receive more of it. But there can't be abrogation. You can't say the moon is a satellite of Earth. Oh, wait a minute, hold on, the Earth is a satellite of the moon. No, it can't be the case that there's abrogation in news. It can only be in actions. Right? Now, the Imam goes on to say, quote, and the people of the left, now we've already made it clear that these ayat have been repeated by Allah to emphasize the wickedness of the unrighteous or the goodness of the righteous. They are in a blazing fire. Fi samum, as said by Ibn Qutaybah, and a shade of smoke that gives them no relief. As mentioned by Ibn Abbas in his commentary. It is a pitch black smoke without coolness nor goodness for them. And similarly, Allah has mentioned examples like this. La baridin wa la kareem. This is used for emphasis because it's following what came before. وَظِلٍّ مِّن يَحْمُومٍ. So it is being modified by what followed before. Don't you see the other example that's in the Quran? Where Allah says, زَيْتُونَةٍ لَا شَرْقِيَّةٍ وَلَا غَرْبِيَّةٍ. Of the olive in which it is neither of the east nor the west. Surah An-Nur, the 24th Surah 35. In which the endings of the ayah are following along with what came before, which is causing the statement of majroor. And likewise, when the Exalted One says, and fruits of many kinds, without stoppage or interruption. So for everything that is desired, they receive. And it is a portion that is noble and handsome. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu has said regarding those in the fire, when it says they shall receive no coolness nor nobility, so they're not receiving any coolness for entering in after they've entered in, nor any goodness for their sight, because they're utterly cut off. And they were before that time, meaning the earthly life, pushing themselves away and leaving the commands of Allah and busying themselves in other affairs. And they were always firmly established on their idolatry, as said by Ibn Abbas, Al-Hasan al-Basri, Al-Bahaq, and Ibn Zayd, on sin, the great sins which they did not repent from, as said by Mujahid and Qatada ibn Da'imah, and from making false oaths by making false oaths by swearing by Allah frequently, as said by a Sha'bi, and the shirk and the kufr, and denying the resurrection, as said by a Zajjaj. And when they said, is it that when we die that we'll be resurrected? Is it then our fathers of old as well? Our fathers of old? They're asking this in a mocking tone. And asking, well, shall we be resurrected? As well as our fathers of old? Now this has been mentioned as well in Surah Hud, the 11th Surah 103, Surah Al-Safat, the 37th Surah 62, and Surah Al-An'am, the 6th Surah 70. And then the Exalted One, he says, ثُمَّ إِنَّكُمْ أَيُّهَا الضَّالُّونَ الْمُكَذِّبُونَ لَآكِلُونَ مِنْ شَجَرٍ مِنْ زَقُّومٍ فَمَالِئُونَ مِنْهَا الْبُطُونَ فَشَارِبُونَ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْحَمِيمِ فَشَارِبُونَ شُرْبَ الْهِيمِ هَذَا نُزُلُهُمْ يَوْمَ الدِّينِ نحن خلقناكم فلولا تصدقون أفرأيتم ما تمنون أأنتم تخلقونه أم نحن الخالقون نحن قدرنا بينكم الموت وما نحن بمسبوقين على أن نبدل أمثالكم وننشئكم فيما لا تعلمون ولقد علمتم النشأة الأولى فلولا تذكرون أفرأيتم ما تحرثون أأنتم تزرعونه أم نحن الزارعون لو نشاء لجعلناه حطاما فظلتم تفكهون إنا لمغرمون بل نحن محرومون أفرأيتم الماء الذي تشربون أأنتم أنزلتموه من المزن أم نحن المنزلون لو نشاء جعلناه أجاجا فلولا تشكرون أفرأيتم النار التي تورون أأنتم أنشأتم شجرتها أم نحن المنشئون نحن جعلناها تذكرة ومتاعا للمقوين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم فلا أقسم بمواقع النجوم وإنه لقسم لو تعلمون عظيم. So then, O astray ones that are denying, what is your condition? To eat from the tree of Zaqqum, that shall tear your bellies, tearing into the outside. Drinking scorching hot water, drinking a drink that is terrible indeed. This is your destination on the day of resurrection. We created you, so why do you not testify and believe? Do you not see that which you have been given? Did you create it, or are we the creators? We have ordained it among you, and we have ordained for you death, and we shall not cause anyone to come before their time. Had it not been the case, we could have chosen to replace yourselves and bring about others besides you in that which you do not know. You know about the first creation already. So why is it you do not remember what is to come? Have you not seen that which you inherit and that which you bring forth and irrigate? Is it you that sows the seed, or are we the one who brings it to be? If we had willed, we could have made it nothing but dust, and you would have been left with nothing. Indeed, we are the ones that bring to be and who are owed. Is it that you see the water which you drink from? Is it you that sent it down from the rain clouds, or did we send it down? Had we willed, we could have made it so that it came in abundance and damaged all. But is it not the case that you will show gratefulness? Have you not seen the fire which you kindle? Is it you that caused the tree to burn from its flames? Or do we create this and cause it? We made this as a remembrance and something for those who show certainty. So glorify the name of your Lord the Most Grand. I swear by the very places of the stars, and it is an oath that is grand if only you knew. So Al-Waqi'ah, the 56th surah, ayat 52, ayat 51 to 76. The Exalted One has mentioned a number of things, but much of this we have already covered until we come to the ayah. They shall drink a terrible drink, a blazing drink. This means that their thirst that they have shall not be quenched from that which they drink from. And this is your destination. It is your sustenance. هَذَا نُزُلُهُمْ. This is their sustenance, as said by Ibn Abbas and Ibn Abi Amr, for that which they did. And this is the day of resurrection. Now we've discussed the day of resurrection, this expression Yawmuddin in Surah Al-Fatiha, the first surah. We created you, meaning we brought you to be, and you were nothing before. And you affirm this. So why is it not that you bear witness? Why is it you do not bear witness of the revelation? So He, Allah, brings the fact of His ability to bring them about the first time as proof that they can be resurrected. Do you not see that which comes from you of the semen? Have you created this seed? Did you create the human race? Or did we? So to bring things to be from this lowly fluid, He, Allah, is the one who is able to do so. Have you looked at the basis of how you came to be? Or were you ignorant of this? We shall cause death to come among you, meaning the judgment of who is to die. And no one is retrieved before their time. And no one is left to chance. And we shall cause you to be in that which you do not know, meaning we shall replace your attributes. Some of you shall be made into apes and swines because of what previous nations had done that merited this. Some of you shall be destroyed. Some of you shall be made another creation. All of this was mentioned by Mujahid, Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, and others. You shall be. He, Allah, says, we created you besides your creation in different forms that you can see. And you know about the first creation, meaning that you were brought from the sperm drop and then you grew into the clot. Yet you do not reflect that Allah has the power to bring you back again at the resurrection? Do you not see that which you plant, what you do with the earth from your irrigation and other matters, and laying seeds in the ground? Is it you that caused the seeds to sprout forth? So here Allah uses an example of something being dead or something being placed on the ground and not being seen any longer, and then it coming to life as a proof of the coming to be of the resurrection. And this is one of the greatest evidences that Allah shows of His oneness and unicity, also known as Tawheed. And we made this irrigation and sowing seeds. Had we so chosen, we could have made it to be nothing, meaning it wouldn't have grown. It wouldn't have become wheat. It wouldn't have become all the different things that seeds become. It would have become as nothing. And there would have been nothing left for you of which you desire. And He, Allah, is owed by all but owes no one. And they would have said, oh, we've been forbidden. We've been stopped from doing this. We've lost out. Do you not look at the fire which you kindle? Meaning that you kindle to burn wood, that you use for kindling, that you use kindling to bring about. Is it you that causes the fire to burn the trees that you use, or us? So it is from these trees that people burn, that bring things about. And some of it comes from the fire. Now, when people light fires, this is also a reference to how people can draw iron from fire, because you need to use trees to cause that fire, and then to use iron to shape it and to do other things. He, Allah, then says, we have made it a remembrance and an admonition, meaning reference to the great fire and the punishment that's made reference to. This has been done as an admonition. Those who travel can see the fire that they kindle and reflect on the great fire that is coming. And the fire needed by travelers is greater than that needed by those who are resident. Because when they kindle it, it keeps away wild animals. And it also guides the one who is lost. Both the traveler and the resident, when they kindle it, they have use of it. Those who are hungry can make use of it to cook food. And that those that have no means can use it to gain means. Glorified is the name of your Lord, most grand. So He, Allah, says this after proving His oneness, His unicity, His might, and His favors that He has bestowed. So He, Allah, has glorified Himself and declared Himself exalted and free from whatever they say about Him. So pray in the name of your Lord. So the expression فَسَبِّحْ بِاسْمِ رَبِّكَ الْعَظِيمِ, Al-Dahaq and others have understood this as per the Hadith as the reason why the Prophet ﷺ told us to say this in our ruku'. Subhana Rabbi al-Azim. Ibn Jarir has said the same thing, mentioning your Lord and naming Him. So glorify your Lord. Close quote. Now someone might say, well, the kindling of the fire, what could this have to do with us now? Because we're in a technological age, and what benefit would this ayah have for us? Well, remember, electricity and gas are types of fire as well. They're types of heat as well. And if you ever see the opportunity of when you turn your stove on and you see the gas come up, that's a type of fire. The electricity, when it burns people and they're killed, that's a type of fire. So the same thing holds. People that are lost, that are walking for hours and hours and hours, what's one of the ways that people find out in this age their way back onto the road? They can see street lights, which are kindled by what? Electricity, which is what? It's a type of fire. When people are looking for someone's house, oh yes, my house is there, you'll see my lights are on. They're driving down a dark road, see the lights are on. Right? When someone is looking in their house and the power's been shut off, they look for the batteries, right, which can kindle this fire that they need of electricity. They slide them inside of their flashlight and twist the top and turn it on. Now they have light. Allah is the one that's created all these things. So when we don't have light, or when we have light, the absence that we have, all these things that are required, this light that we have. Now here is a really powerful thing. Here a lot of theologians quote this ayah as evidence, because Allah said, is it you that causes these trees to burn with the fire, or is it us? What that's making reference to is things like burning, crackling, washing. Those are properties that Allah has created that fire does. And He, Allah, has given those properties to fire. But it's not the essence of what fire is. How do we know that? Because in Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, when Allah told the fire, be cool. So the fire was made cool, so that property was taken away from it. But its essence as fire, meaning as flames, still remained. So this is one of the proofs that the theologians use to show that Allah is the master over all things. Properties, elements, right? So elements are the actual things, like tables, right? And then you have your properties and your other aspects, like a red table. Colors and things like that can't exist by themselves. Colors and properties can't exist by themselves. If I told you, okay, show me flicker. You think how do I show flicker without attributing something? Okay, show me a flickering flame. You might draw on a piece of paper, or turn on your gas and show me a flickering flame, or turn on something to show a flickering flame. Show me flapping. Flapping what? That could mean anything. Okay, show me a flapping flag. So you put a flag out in the wind, right? Flapping, that's a property of something. It's property. But the element carries it. But both elements and properties are owned by Allah. So in the bigger scheme of things, when someone says, I'm full, that's more of a property. Because the food didn't really make them full. Allah gave them the satiation to be full. The food itself is an element and doesn't possess a permanent property to actually impact other elements. Now, this is where you start getting heavy into like wider areas of science, because it's from here that you started having scholars go into science and things. Because just from this one ayat that Allah mentioned about making a difference between a property and an element. So it's important to understand that in the wider scheme of things, when someone says, well, who provides you with your electricity? And you say, oh, it's the city board. Or that's true in the sense of the asbab. That's like the means. But that's really not the underlying cause. The underlying cause of the law is, well, who gives you your food? Well, I go to the grocery store. Yeah, that's true. But how does the grocery store get it? Well, you see, it's growing in the ground. Okay, all right. Well, how did you get that? Well, the farmer pulls it from the ground. What does he do? Lays the seeds. Okay, where'd you get the seeds from? The trees. And where the trees get the seeds from? Well, they grew. And where they grow from? Other seeds. Who laid those other seeds? What about when there weren't people to lay those seeds? Then they have to start thinking. Right? So these properties and elements, right, have their meanings and reasons to be used. And that's why you could have scholars from the early generations say there is no absolute way to account for an atom's location at any given time. Right? Later came to be known as Heidelberg's principle. But originally, you had early scholars saying there's no way to account for the presence of a given electron at a given moment in time regarding the rest of the atom, because of talking about things like this. And that has benefited it. So Allah is saying these elements that I've given you and the properties that I've given them, they don't necessarily fully impact you. Like if someone says, well, and it's correct for us to use this language. So I'm not telling someone to not say any longer that made me full. But I'm saying to recognize that those are things that are properties that have been created. Like the act of a window breaking, someone being full, the murderer dying, the murdered dying from the murder weapon. Those are properties. Right? So the guy that was killed, the murder weapon didn't in and of itself kill him. It was his time to go. And that was the means that came about to facilitate that and make it possible. You saw food, you were hungry. You mentioned Allah's name before eating. You then took the food, consumed it. And on account of you praising Allah, mentioning His name, Allah caused through that element, which has no permanent property of its own, to make you full. On account of praising His name. Now stay with me here. Now imagine the person that Allah's given them that, but they're not a believer and they don't thank Allah, and then they eat, and then Allah still makes them full. How ungrateful is that? We understand the fullness of it now. Now you can start to, as Imam Mustafa Al-Shati said, to pull back the curtain and see that Allah the Exalted is behind all things. And so the tests and things that you go through that are operating and the things that are happening are part of something much bigger. And the properties that you see around you are temporal. The boss that comes to you and says, oh, you were gone for another extra 10 minutes on your break when you shouldn't have been. So now you're looking at your boss. Okay, that's an element. What he's saying, that's the property. Now, why is this being done? Is this being a test from Allah? So the property to see how grateful I'm going to be? Or is this property that's been given to me by Allah to see how grateful I'm going to be and that I've been wasting time. So Allah's warning me through this man and making him talk. Because now you're seeing properties. There's this element, because what's coming out of the element isn't his own properties. It's been put there. Okay, so what does this really mean? So now you start looking at life in a totally different way than how you looked at it before. Fire is not really burning the wood. It's the property that the fire has been given that Allah causes it to do that. But the property of burning is actually not the essential property of the fire. Fire just flickers. Burning is the property it's been given. Why? What's our evidence? Go back to the story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. The fire was still flickering. Was it burning? No. So the property is not a permanent quality of the element of fire. And that's really heavy. So now we can start to look at life in a totally different aspect, right? And start to really appreciate things. And to start to know that, okay, Allah is the one that controls all these things in a real sense. In a real sense. So that's why when someone says, no one of us believes that when we ask someone, oh, brother, please make dua for me. No brother should ever turn around and say, you mushrik, you should make dua to Allah. No, I'm asking you to make dua for me because I'm assuming you was an element that Allah has given you properties of closeness to Him that maybe you have a higher and it'll get answered quicker. Not that it'll get answered altogether, because in reality, that person's an element that's only been given properties and he can't do anything anyway. But we're assuming that maybe Allah's given him some properties. So he might be able to make dua, and then Allah grants that dua because the properties he's been given, he's used the properties that Allah's given him, and because he's used the properties that Allah's given him, and then he's thanked Allah, Allah's now pleased with him, and now he's closer to Allah, so then the dua might be answered quicker. The same thing with whether we're talking about the prophets that are in their graves or the people that are on this side. Both are alive. We don't assume either one of them have properties that are permanent, but we're assuming that the properties they've been given, that they're pleasing to Allah, and now Allah the Exalted, they brought them closer, so there's a possibility the dua we grant it quicker. So this is an important point about properties and elements, and it comes up in sort of the intermediate to advanced discussions on creed, especially in books of ihsan, when you talk about zuhud and really seeing things for as they are. That's why there's that dua, oh Allah, show me things as they are, the truth, show me the truth as it really is and the falsehood as it really is. Some people, they don't know how to recognize that. So when they see the truth as it really is, when they see the falsehood for really is, they can't always immediately recognize it because it doesn't fully figure in. So when people are showing, okay, show me the truth for what it really is. Okay, the geological column is a lie, and the radioactivity that you thought you saw, there are actual plumes of radioactivity in the Earth's atmosphere that they couldn't be around for billions of years. So there's a problem here, and also the fossil record that you have, that's not completely. I mean, once you start really seeing reality for what it is, it starts causing damage. And some people, they willfully don't see it, or some people, they can't put the pieces together yet. And that's why when someone says that dua is a powerful dua, oh Allah, show me truth as it is and falsehood as it is. You shouldn't say that dua without really understanding what's going to come to pass, because you might have to change stuff in your culture, might have to change stuff in your diet, might have to change your perception about the world around you. And some people want to be shown the truth, meaning show me that what I'm doing is all right. And show me that what those guys over there is doing is not right. So then I can go and correct them. Rather than being shown the truth, it's like, okay, listen, you're both wrong. Oh my Lord, subhanAllah, we're both wrong. Yes. Now you must change. So properties and elements is a consistent discussion that comes up where Allah constantly in the Quran, don't we remember in Surah Al-Anfal where He said, it wasn't you who threw when you threw, but Allah who threw? And you did not kill them, but it was Allah who killed them? It's like, wait a minute, hold on. The sword on the battle of Badr, it was held by, that's true. But those are elements, and the properties, Allah's the one that was responsible for. That's elements and properties again. You have to understand what's behind all of this. Now we get reward because the properties that Allah has put there, when we then make a choice to serve Allah and to please Him, we then utilize those properties, which is what? Iktisab. And by doing iktisab of that property, then you get reward from Allah. because you've willfully chosen to do that righteous deed and to obey Allah. And then when that property is there, when you take that property and you choose to do something sinful, the Allah the Exalted has told you not to do, and He hasn't made that pleasing to Him, and He's told you don't do that. I've willed that exists, but don't do that, and then we do it. Then we have iktisab of a sinful action, right? And we earn that, right? But those properties are there. We are elements. We're not solely all bad and not solely all good in that sense, because that's not the element that we're made of. Prophets are. Prophets, their element is solely good properties. That's why their blood, their urine, their feces, everything that comes from a prophet has some benefit in it. The soul aspect of it, because that's the element and the properties. But for us, our elements and our properties, there's different things about it. Now, the Imam rahimahullah, he goes on to say, quote, and the Exalted One, he further says, so glorifying the name of your Lord, after this Allah has said, and I swear, which is used as an indicative of power, that I swear by the places of the constellations, or the places of the stars. So this expression is used to drive home a point. Now, firstly, let us start by saying that an oath that Allah is taking is used to drive home a point, to refute something that the unbeliever has said, that the Quran is magic or poetry or any such matter as that. And to swear by the places of the stars, meaning the stars of the sky, which is the understanding of the vast majority. And the stars of the skies, meaning their declining and rising points, and that they shall fall on the day of resurrection. It's about Hassan al-Basri. And the different constellations they belong to, as said by Ata al-Khurasani and Qatada ibn Da'im. And also how they become covered after Maghrib, and then they begin to show later in the night, as said by Abu Ubaidah. And some have said these stars are references to stars mentioned in the Quran, as said by Ibn Abbas, because it's the Quran as well as made reference to as stars, because it comes down at different times and its revelation has different places. And this oath, Allah mentions that this oath is something grand indeed, if you only knew the severity of it. So Allah is saying, if you only knew the severity of this oath, you would understand its grandness. Then right after this, he says, إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ فِي كِتَابٍ مَكْنُونٍ لَا يَمَسُّهُ إِلَّا الْمُطَهَّرُونَ تنزيل من رب العالمين أفبهذا الحديث أنتم مدهنون وتجعلون رزقكم أنكم تكذبون فلولا إذا بلغت الحلقوم وأنتم حينئذ تنظرون ونحن أقرب إليه منكم ولكن لا تبصرون فلولا إن كنتم غير مدينين ترجعونها إن كنتم صادقين فأما إن كان من المقربين فروح وريحان وجنة نعيم وأما إن كان من أصحاب اليمين فسلام لك من أصحاب اليمين وأما إن كان من المكذبين الضالين فنزل من حميم وتصلية جحيم إن هذا لهو حق اليقين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم. Indeed, it is a noble Quran and a preserved place. None shall touch it except the purified. Revelation sent down from the Lord of all creation. Is it in this speech that you are finding mockery and sport, and you have made your sustenance that you're denying? Well, why is it not then, when the soul reaches the throat, that you don't return it and you're looking on? We are closer at that point to him than you, but you do not see. If you indeed were not in need of us, why don't you return the soul back if you are really able and truthful? Is it then the case, as for the ones who are the near, then they have relaxation, goodness, and a garden of felicity? Yes, as for those who are the companions of the right hand, peace is to you from the companions of the right hand. Those who are deniers and who are far astray, then their home they shall come down to scorching water and the blazing fire of the great fire. This is a sure reality to come, so glorify the name of your Lord, the most grand. Surah Al-Waqi'ah, the 56th surah, ayat 77 to 96. And when the Exalted One says, it is a noble Quran. Noble here means everything that could be praised and said that is good. It clarifies, it guides, it gives wisdom. And it is ennobled in the sight of Allah. And a preserved place. The preserved place refers to two things. Number one, the preserved tablet, as said by Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu. Secondly, the mushaf that is in our hands. This was said by Mujahid and Qatada. So that it's in the preserved place. The preserved place is veiled from the creation, as mentioned by Muqatil, but it is pure, as said by Zajjaj. None shall touch it except the purified. So it's in the preserved tablet. The purified that touch it are the angels, when they bring down the decrees. And this is the statement of Ibn Abbas, Ikrimah, Mujahid, Sa'id ibn Jubayr. But when we're talking about the mushaf in our hands, those that touch it should be purified from all types of impurities and in a state of purity. So none should touch it that aren't in a state of wudu. Idol worshippers should not touch it. Those who touch it should be pure from sins of all types by repentance, as said by Al-Rabi' ibn Anas. And no one can find the goodness and the sweetness of it except by believing in it, as said by Al-Farra. It is revelation sent down to the creation. Is it this speech, the Quran, that you find mockery in to deny? Ibn Abbas, Al-Dahaq, Al-Farra, and Mujahid say that the unbelievers stay steadfast on their unbelief, and your sustenance, have you made it, and you're denying the truth that's been given to you? Now, it should be understood from a hadith mentioned by Imam Muslim narrated by Ibn Abbas, in which the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, sometime it comes to be the case that when people get up in the morning, there will be one that is thankful and one that is ungrateful. And he looked at the rain as it came down. The people said, but this is a mercy that Allah has placed wherever He wills. Some of them have said, oh no, it's an omen and a sign of such and such. But then Allah revealed the ayah starting from, I swear by the places of the stars, until your sustenance has been given and you deny. This refers to those who look for omens in the sky. Also, it was related in a hadith in Al-Bukhari and Muslim's collection from the narration of Zayd bin Khalid al-Juhani, who said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed with us a prayer while at the place Al-Hudaybiyah. And the night time was there. And before we headed out, he stopped the people and he said, do you know what your Lord said? And the people said, Allah and His Messenger know best. He said, it comes to be the case that my slaves get up and one of them is a believer in me while one is an unbeliever. As far as the believer, this is the one who says, He gave us rain by the favor of Allah and by His mercy. And because of this, he's a believer in me. And he rejects faith in the stars and omens. As for the one who said, we were given rain on behalf of such and such omen or such and such portent, this one rejects faith in me and believes in the stars. So this refers to the fact that the sustenance then, that the scholars of commentary now refer to, the sustenance is the rain. And the sustenance is in that rain. So there should be thankfulness. And when the Exalted One is said, you have made your sustenance, meaning you should make your sustenance your thankfulness. As said by Aisha and Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhuma and Ibn Abbas. So you should make this something. And you should not make the thankfulness for your sustenance a reason for you to reject faith. Because they would be given rain and they would say, oh no, we were given rain on this day when we needed it because of such and such omen. But no, it is on account of the sustenance. And so when Allah says, when the soul reaches the throat, and you are, meaning the family of the dead, looking on, meaning looking at the authority and judgment of Allah and His command, and looking at the human being in that state, and you can't do anything, and we are nearer to Him than you, meaning the angels of death are nearer to Him than His family, but you do not see, meaning the angels, as said by Ibn Abbas, and we are nearer to Him than you, meaning with knowledge and power, and that He, Allah, sees everything, but you do not see, meaning you don't know. And He, Allah, is speaking to the unbelievers. And if you can reckon yourselves and protect yourselves, as mentioned by Ibn Abbas, Al-Hasan, Al-Basri, Ibn Jubayr, Ata, and Ikrimah, and if you are so certain of yourselves, if you resurrect yourselves and protect yourselves, then return the soul back to the body. Meaning, if you are denying the God who shall reckon you and reward you, then why don't you return the soul to its body? And if you can't do that, then you should know that the command is not yours. It belongs to someone else. So He, Allah, is asking a question and then answering it because the question started to be asked. So why is it not that when the soul reaches the throat, And why is it that you do not obey, but if you do not want to, then return the soul to the body? So He, Allah, uses these examples of asking a question and then answering it to emphasize the severity of that which is being given. For example, when He says, فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُم مِّنِّي هُدًى فَمَن تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ. So then, is it then there comes to you from me guidance? Then whoever has my guidance, there shall be no fear for him. Surah Al-Baqarah, the second surah, ayat 38. So here Allah is asking a question and then finishing the statement immediately thereafter. So He mentions the different levels of the creation at the time of death. And He says, as far as the one who his soul reaches his throat, and he's from those near to Allah, min al-muqarrabeen, then they are those who go forward. They have relaxation, they have rest, they have joy, they have security, they have forgiveness, they have mercy, they have the paradise. Because ruh is one of the things of mercy and joy that comes only through the paradise. They have safety in the grave with a good outcome. And they have a life and eternal everlasting felicity without any more death to come. Mercy without any wrath to come. Rayhan, they shall have the sustenance of the hereafter. The relaxation of the hereafter, the paradise. The Rayhan, the goodness, the gentleness. No one of those near to Allah in this earthly life shall leave except that he shall be given glad tidings of the scent of the paradise. And he shall smell the scent of the paradise. And his soul, when it's taken, he will know he is of those of the paradise. The believer, when his soul is taken, his eyes look close to when the soul came out, to where it was. And that soul that is to go to the paradise indeed does descend up. And this is the truth. Now all of this has been mentioned by Sa'id ibn Jubair, ibn Abbas, as well as Muhammad ibn Ka'ab, ibn Qutaybah, Ikrimah, ibn Ya'mar, Qatada, Ruwais from Ya'qub, ibn Abi Surayj, Al-Kasai, Qatada, ibn Qutaybah, as well as Qatada, Mujahid, Abu al-Aliya, Abu Imran al-Jawni, and others. So peace be to you from the people of the right hand. Meaning peace be to you, you're safe from the punishment, as said by Abu Salih from Ibn Abbas. Peace be to you, meaning the angels are conveying the peace and informing him that he's from the people of the right hand, as said by Ata. That you see in there what is under, and in every area in the paradise, that there is peace and safety. And you can see what's been prepared for them of the reward, as said by Zajjaj. As for those of the deniers of the resurrection, they are astray from the guidance, and their home is coming to them of the great fire. We've clarified this expression already in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, ayat 56. Indeed, this, meaning what's mentioned in this surah, is a certain reality, and it speaks for itself. And similarly, Allah has made similar expressions when He said, وَلَدَارُ الْآخِرَةِ, and certainly the coming hereafter. Surah Yusuf, the 12th surah, 109. So this is the truth of the matter. And the certain truth of what's coming, what's been mentioned in this surah, is established. So glorify the name of your Lord. Now we've already mentioned this expression before in ayah 74. The Exalted One that brings us to Surah Al-Hadid. Now, Surah Al-Hadid, it has been said that this surah is of Al-Madinah. This was mentioned by Ibn Abbas, and likewise said by Al-Hasan, Mujahid, Ikrimah, Jabir, Qatada and Muqatil. Only Ibn as-Sa'ib has said that it is from Mecca. The Exalted One has then said, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sabbaha lillahi ma fi as-samawati wal-ard. وهو العزيز الحكيم له ملك السماوات والأرض يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم هو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش يعلم ما يلج في الأرض وما يخرج منها وما ينزل من السماء وما يعرج فيها وهو معكم أينما كنتم والله بما تعملون بصير له ملك السماوات والأرض وإلى الله ترجع الأمور يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل وهو عليم بذات الصدور آمنوا بالله ورسوله وأنفقوا مما جعلكم مستخلفين فيه فالذين آمنوا منكم وأنفقوا لهم أجر كبير وما لكم لا تؤمنون بالله والرسول يدعوكم لتؤمنوا بربكم وقد أخذ ميثاقكم إن كنتم مؤمنين هو الذي ينزل على عبده آيات بينات ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور وإن الله بكم لرؤوف رحيم وما لكم ألا تنفقوا في سبيل الله ولله ميراث السماوات والأرض لا يستوي منكم من أنفق من قبل الفتح وقاتل أولئك أعظم درجة من الذين أنفقوا من بعد وقاتلوا وكلا وعد الله الحسنى والله بما تعملون خبير من ذا الذي يقرض الله قرضا حسنا فيضاعفه له وله أجر كريم. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, compassionate. All of what's in the skies and the earth gives glory to Allah. He is the Almighty, the All-Wise. He possesses the dominion of the skies and the earth. He gives life and He gives death. He has power over everything. He is the first, the last, the manifest, the subtle. He has knowledge of everything. He is the one who created the skies and the earth in 6 days. And He is above the throne. He knows what happens in the innermost pockets of the earth and what exits from it, and what is sent down from the sky, and what ascends to it. He is with you wherever you are. And Allah sees all that you do. He possesses the dominion of the skies and the earth, and to Allah return all affairs. The night is merged into the day, and the day is merged into the night. He knows the innermost secrets of the hearts. Believe in Allah and His Messenger, and spend from that which He made for you to succeed one another in. Those who believe from among you and spend from among you have a great reward when you spend on them. What's wrong with you that you do not believe in Allah and the Messenger, and He calls to you so that you might believe in your Lord, and He's taken your covenant if you indeed do believe. He is the one who sent down on His slave clear signs to extract you and remove you from the darkness and put you in the light. Indeed, Allah is benevolent and compassionate towards you. What is wrong with you that you do not spend in the cause of Allah, and Allah is the owner of the inheritance of the skies and the earth? They are not equal, those among you who spend from before the conquest and fight. These have the greatest rank versus those who spent after the conquest and they fight. And indeed, both Allah has promised goodness, and Allah is informed of all of what you do. Who is the one that shall loan to Allah a goodly loan, so that He might double it and increase it, and he have a great and noble reward? Surah Al-Hadid, the 57th surah, ayat 1 to 11. Close quote. Inshallah, we can stop, I believe, for Salat al-Maghrib, and then we can return after Salah. أقول قولي هذا استغفر الله لي ولكم استغفر الله إن الله غفور رحيم رحيم ولا إله إلا الله. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وبعد. Alhamdulillah. We are now looking at Surah Al-Hadid, and Imam Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he starts off by saying, quote, when the Exalted One says, all of what's in the skies and earth gives glory to Allah. There is the tasbih that is known, that can be conceived. But the tasbih that cannot be conceived, we have already mentioned in Surah Al-Isra, the 17th surah, ayah 44, when Allah says, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. And indeed, there is no thing except that it gives glory to its Lord with praise. When the Exalted One says, and He is the first, Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi said, meaning He is the first before all things, and the last, meaning He remains after the destruction of the creation, the end of all things, and death. He is the manifest with His clear proofs and His enlightening evidences and the direct witnesses of the truth and obviousness of His oneness and uniqueness. So He is manifest over everything by His might and power, and He manifests in His exaltedness, and which He has power over everything and is dominant in all His resplendent righteousness. The subtle, because He is veiled from the gaze of the creation, which cannot gaze upon Him in any modality. Thus, the meanings of manifestation as well as subtlety are being veiled from the eyes of the creations, but also manifesting His signs for those who think and have deep insight. So it means all of the affairs of the earthly life, He manifests these things, and He knows all of what's manifested and all of what's hidden in the unseen. He is the one that created the skies and the earth. We've discussed this in Surah Al-Araf, the 7th surah, 54. And we've also discussed up until the statement, and He knows what is in the crevices of the earth. Surah Saba, the 34th surah, 2. And He is with you wherever you are. This means He is with you wherever you are with His knowledge and His power. And what's after that? up until the statement, so believe in Allah and His Messenger. This speech is to the unbelievers of the Quraysh, and spend of that which He made for you to succeed in, the wealth in which is in the hands of others besides you. Spend on them. And do not forget that Allah destroyed those other nations, because He, Allah, gave the Quraysh that wealth, and they were the successors of those that came before them. What is wrong with you that you do not believe in Allah? This question is one of refutation and rebuke, meaning, what reward do you think you have in the hereafter when you don't believe in Allah? And He's taken your covenant. Taking your covenant refers to when you were extracted from the back of Nabiyuna Adam alayhi salam. So why will you not be believers then? These meaning believers in the evidences and proofs that have been given. He is the one who sent down on His slave, meaning the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the clear ayat, meaning the Quran, to expel you from the darkness of major shirk to the light of faith. And indeed, Allah is benevolent and compassionate towards you. So when He sent the messenger and sent out the evidences, then He told them to spend. Then He said, what is wrong with you that you don't spend in the cause of Allah? And Allah has the ownership of the inheritance of the skies and the earth. Meaning, what thing do you think you have in leaving spending from that which Allah gave you? And you shall die, leaving behind your wealth. Then He makes clear the virtue of that which was given regarding spending and the importance of it. They are not equal those among you who spent from before the conquest, meaning before the conquest of Mecca, as said by Ibn Abbas and the vast majority, and before the Hudaybiyah that led to the conquest. So they're not equal those who spent before that and fought in the cause of Allah. So those who spent before and fought in the cause of Allah are not equal with those who did both activities after that. Now this ayah was revealed regarding Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. Those who spent in the cause of Allah and fought before the conquest, they have a higher rank in the sight of Allah, said by Ibn Abbas and Ata, meaning higher ranks of the paradise organized in different ranks. They are those who spent from before the conquest. That's the best thing. These are the best of people. As the judge has said the same thing, because they spent of what they had when the difficulty was greater, although both have the reward from their Lord. Meaning both rewards are promised by Allah, the paradise. Close quote. What this refers to then is those who spent in the cause of Allah before the conquest had greater reason and had greater striving, because they didn't have a lot of the advantages that others had. They just had to spend, and they gave what they had, and they had nothing else. And this ayah was specifically sent down regarding Abu Bakr, because he and those like him spent at a time when it was dangerous to. Whereas after the conquest, when there is wealth, when Islam is manifest, it's easy to spend and fight then. But it wasn't during the persecutions in Mecca. The Imam goes on to say, after this point, quote, the statement, who is the one who showed loan Allah a goodly loan and He will double it for him? This refers to the goodly loan. And the goodly loan mentioned in this ayah of loaning Allah a goodly loan and Him doubling it means the goodly loan of what He has given His creation, of an increase in their wealth or their sustenance. We've already discussed this in Surah Al-Baqarah, the second surah, ayah 245. And the noble reward is the paradise. Then the Exalted One, He says after this, يوم ترى المؤمنين والمؤمنات يسعى نورهم بين أيديهم وأيمانهم بشراكم اليوم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها ذلك هو الفوز العظيم. يوم يقول المنافقون والمنافقات للذين آمنوا انظرونا نقتبس من نوركم قيل ارجعوا وراءكم فالتمسوا نورا فضرب بينهم بسور له باب باطنه فيه الرحمة وظاهره من قبله العذاب ينادونهم ألم نكن معكم قالوا بلى ولكنكم فتنتم أنفسكم وتربصتم وارتبتم وغرتكم الأماني حتى جاء أمر الله وغركم بالله الغرور فاليوم لا يؤخذ منكم فدية ولا من الذين كفروا مأواكم النار هي مولاكم وبئس المصير ألم يأن للذين آمنوا أن تخشع قلوبهم لذكر الله وما نزل من الحق ولا يكونوا كالذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبل فطال عليهم الأمد فقست قلوبهم وكثير منهم فاسقون اعلموا أن الله يحيي الأرض بعد موتها قد بينا لكم الآيات لعلكم تعقلون إن المصدقين والمصدقات وأقرضوا الله قرضا حسنا يضاعف لهم ولهم أجر كريم. On a day in which you will see the believing men and women moving about with their light in front of them and on their right. Glad tidings to you on the day of gardens under which rivers flow from beneath to be forever therein. That is the great salvation. On a day in which the hypocrites, men and women, will say to those who believe, look at us and loan us some of your light. It will be say, return. Go behind and stay away from the light, and there shall be put a wall between them, a door in which its innermost has the mercy mentioned on it, and its outward from before has the punishment. They shall be called forth. Did there not come to you the news? And they shall say, indeed, but you yourselves were tested, and you waited and you doubted. And whimsical and matters and whims and fancies deceived you until the order of Allah came, and the deceiver deceived you about Allah. So today, no one of you has any ransom to be taken from him, those among you who are unbelievers. Your home is the fire. It is your ultimate home, and what an evil homecoming that is. And is it not indeed time for the believers that their hearts might have fear for the remembrance of Allah and what was sent down from the truth, and that they not be like those who were given the book from before, and there came a long period of time that passed over them, and their hearts became hardened, and many of them are rebellious sinners. Know, indeed, that Allah enlivens the earth after its death. Already we've made clear to you the signs so that you might think and use your intellect. Those who testify to the truth, men and women, and they loan Allah a goodly loan, He, Allah, shall enumerate for them the good, and they shall have a great reward indeed that is noble. Surah Al-Hadid, ayat 12 to 18. And when the Exalted One is said, on the day when you will see the believing men and women moving about with their light, meaning they shall have an illumination of light on account of their deeds that shall take them across the path on the day of judgment. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anh has said, among them is one who shall have light like a mountain. And then there shall be another who shall have light on his thumbs, and another shall have light one on top of the other. And on their right, as Allah has said, so they shall be given light on their right side, and their light shall spread, and it shall spread from their hands, and from their right, and from their left, as a glad tidings, and the angels will be saying to them, good news to you today. The hypocrites will say, look at us, loan us some of your light. So the hypocrites will be going and trying to find a way to get into the light of the believers, because people on the day of resurrection shall be overwhelmed with the thick and great darkness, and the believers shall be given the light, and the hypocrites will try to go into the light of the believers. And when the believers go forward, the hypocrites shall say, oh no, look, give us some of your light. But it will be said, no, go back. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh says, the believers will say, get back. But Muqatil says it shall be the angels that say this. Go back to the place which you were at before, without the light. Return, and they won't see anything. Go back and do some deeds which you thought you were going to do, that Allah might give you some light. There is no light for you today. And so a barrier shall be put between them. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh says, this is known as Al-A'raf. This is the barrier between the paradise and the fire. The inside of this barrier shall have on it written the mercy, which is the paradise. On the outside, meaning behind, on the other side of it, shall be written the punishment, is the great fire. Now, it's already been discussed before that this barrier or wall is in Jerusalem. And it's in the eastern portion between a section that is known as the Valley of Gehenna and the door which is called the Door of Mercy. Well, we've already mentioned this before, from Ubadah ibn as-Samit and Abdullah ibn Amr and Ka'ab. And they shall be called, the hypocrites shall be calling out to the believers from behind this wall. Is there not some way? Was there not some matter that we did of your religion, that we prayed your prayer, that we marched out with you? But the believers will say to them, yes, but yourselves were tested. And you went astray in regards to the matter because you were filled with nifaq, hypocrisy. And you waited. You put off repentance. And you waited and put off believing in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam until you died. And you said that you doubted whether you would die until it came. And so you doubted in the truth. And your whims, your own whims and fancies deceived you when the matters came to the believers, until the matter of Allah became clear, meaning death, and until the fire came unto you. And the deceiver deceived you regarding Allah. Al-Gharur, the deceiver, is Shaitan. He deceived you about the judgment of Allah. Today, there shall be no ransom accepted from you as a protection or a means of buying your way out of your punishment. And this speech is directed towards the hypocrites. And that's why Allah has said, nor from those who reject faith. So there's no way the unbelievers can help you, who are outward unbelievers, nor is there any way that you can get a ransom to protect you. It is your home that shall come to you, meaning your resting place. Close quote. Now what this refers to is the great fire being brought back at the end of time. This shall be in a valley. Now the word Jahannam in Arabic is coming from the word Gehenna, all right, which is Hebrew. And there's a valley known as the Valley of Gehenna. And the Valley of Gehenna, we discussed this in the virtues of Jerusalem. Now the Valley of Gehenna, one of the things about the Valley of Gehenna is that is the place where you used to take your garbage and burn it. You would take your garbage and you would incinerate it outside of the city. So how fitting is it that the great fire on the day of resurrection, it has this barrier that shall be put between the believers and the unbelievers, and that barrier is set there. On the other side is mercy, because the believers will cross the path and go into the next life, into the paradise. And the unbelievers, when this barrier is brought, that has on the other side of it the punishment. So this is the Jahannam referred to, which in Hebrew is Gehenna, which also has been referred to historically. There's been a place known as the Valley of Gehenna, right, which is a place where garbage is burnt. Now there's a wisdom in that, because there's been a lot of argument here about in the last few decades with the ignorance explosion, about people saying, well, there's no way that you can say that people deserve to be in the fire for all eternity. That just can't be. Okay, let's look at the derivation of the word Jahannam and go to Gehenna. Let's forget all the ayat for a moment. We won't even use any ayat. We'll use a purely linguistic discussion. The Valley of Gehenna is where people took garbage from inside of the city and put it outside to be burned and destroyed, incinerated. Okay, so what does this say metaphorically about Allah's, what is he saying about unbelievers? Number two, is there historical evidence of them ever incinerating garbage and then bringing it back inside of the city? Well, no. Once garbage is outside, when it's taken to the dump or it's burned, it's not brought back in. Right. So then that tells us then a wisdom that Allah is putting here. Because ancient nations before, like in Hebrew, like in Arabic, knew about Jahannam or Gehenna. And this is why they named their dump this. This is why they named the dump this. So that you'd understand, because they already understood. Now this makes you understand what people in Hebrew and Arabic and this makes you understand what they knew Jahannam meant. Garbage gets burned. It's destroyed. And the people that are there, that are in there, they don't come back out. Now for the children of Israel, Jerusalem, that gate going into Jerusalem symbolized the city and those of faith. Right? For us, it's the same thing. Those of faith. And those outside, that barrier that's there, that represents the end. You can go today to the Valley of Gehenna, or that area. It's still there. And people don't live there. People don't grow anything there. It's just an empty section. I don't know whether they still burn garbage there, but that's how it was. So there's a wisdom in why Allah gives us these lessons, and people then name earthly things to drive home the point. Right? So the Imam goes on to say, quote, and when the Exalted One says, is it not time for the believers that their hearts might have fear for the remembrance of Allah and what was sent down of the truth, and not be like those who were given the book from before, and there passed over them a long period of time, and their hearts became hard, and many of them were rebellious sinners? Well, there were two incidents regarding this ayah. One is that the ayah, there was an incident with the believers in which Ibn Mas'ud said, those among us who became Muslim, there was a discussion that occurred, and this ayah was sent down so that Muslims would not find fault with each other and rebuke each other as had been before. But this ayah also refers to the hypocrites, as said by Ibn Abbas and Muqatil, because one of the hypocrites asked Salman al-Farisi, saying, tell us about the Torah, because in it are many astonishing things. But this was used to try to trap him, and this ayah was sent down. As the judges said, this ayah refers to a body of believers who their hearts used to be filled with tenderness and fear of Allah. Now, who is Allah describing as having mercy and tenderness? Well, there are a group of believers over these believers. And Allah has said that you should have tenderness and fear of Allah like these believers, because that's realizing Iman in its truth. So is it not time for those who believe, meaning that they've testified to the truth of the faith? Is it not time that their hearts should have fear, meaning fear and longing for the remembrance of Allah? Is it not the case that their remembrance should give birth to fear? And what was sent down from the truth, meaning what was sent down to the truth of what was revealed, so that they might testify to it and not be like those who were given the book before, meaning Jews and Christians, and a long time passed over their hearts and they became hardened, meaning after the period of the prophets and the righteous that came to them, their hearts became hard. And they are those who didn't believe in Nabiyyuna Isa alayhi salam and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then Allah says, know that Allah gives life to the dead earth, meaning He brings from it vegetation after it was dry and dead. And likewise, He's able to bring forth the deceased. And He, Allah says, and we made clear signs for you as an evidence on His oneness, unicity, and power, so that you might use your intellects and think. And those who bear witness and are truthful, men and women, they are those who bear witness, the women, and they give Allah a goodly loan. They shall have it doubled for them and have a great reward. Then Allah the Exalted says after this, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرُسُلِهِ أُولَئِكَ هُمُ الصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءُ عِندَ رَبِّهِمْ لَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ ونورهم والذين كفروا وكذبوا بآياتنا أولئك أصحاب الجحيم اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد كمثل غيث أعجب الكفار نباته ثم يهيج فتراه مصفرا ثم يكون حطاما وفي الآخرة عذاب شديد ومغفرة من الله ورضوان وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور سابقوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها كعرض السماء والأرض أعدت للذين آمنوا بالله ورسله ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم ما أصاب من مصيبة في الأرض ولا في أنفسكم إلا في كتاب من قبل أن نبرأها إن ذلك على الله يسير لكي لا تأسوا على ما فاتكم ولا تفرحوا بما آتاكم بما آتاكم والله لا يحب كل مختال فخور الذين يبخلون ويأمرون الناس بالبخل ومن يتول فإن الله هو الغني الحميد. And those who believe in Allah and His messengers, they are indeed the Siddiqeen, the testifying truthful ones, and the witnesses and martyrs in the sight of their Lord. They have their reward and their light. Those who reject faith and deny of our signs, they are the people of the fire. You should know, this earthly life is but sport and play, and finery, and boasting among you, and stacking up wealth and children. It is like a pasture that the farmer takes astonishment at its growth and vegetation. Then, when its time passes, he sees it as yellow and passing away and broken up. And in the hereafter is a great punishment and forgiveness from Allah and pleasure. This earthly life is but a period of time of deception. So race forward towards forgiveness from your Lord and the paradise, in which its breadth is like the breadth of the sky and the earth. It has been prepared for those who believe in Allah and His messengers. That is a favor from Allah. He gives it to whoever He wills. Allah is the possessor of the grand favor. Nothing strikes as a tribulation in the earth, nor in yourselves, except that it's in a clear book from before it even was brought to pass. Indeed, that is easy for Allah to bring about. So, do not lose hope upon that which comes upon yourselves, and do not become rejoicing in that which He gave you, as if it shall not go away. Allah does not love every boastful braggart, those who are stingy, and they command the people with stinginess. And whoever turns away, then indeed Allah is the all-enriched and the worthy of all praise. Surah Al-Hadid, the 57th surah, ayat 19 to 24. And when the Exalted One has mentioned this ayah, He has said, those who are truthful, the men and women who testify to the truth, they are the truthful ones who testify and the witnesses and martyrs in the sight of their Lord. Now this ayah is said to be the completion of the rest of the previous ayah. And the witnesses in the sight of their Lord is said to be the beginning of another ayah, according to some. However, this is understood by Ibn Abbas, Masruq, and others as being the completion of the ayah just previous. However, the wow that's used, the and that is being used in Wash-Shuhada, it has been said by some that this is the beginning of a new statement, a new expression, because every Muslim, every believer that testifies to the truth is a witness, as said by Ibn Mas'ud and Mujahid. Now, those who it was sent down in were a specific people, and they were a group of 8 people which hastened to Islam. These 8 people this ayah is making reference to, and they are the following 8 people. Abu Bakr is the first, then Umar, then Uthman, then Ali, then Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, then Talha, then Az-Zubayr, then Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, and Zayd. This was said, these people, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, Talha, Az-Zubayr, Sa'ad, ibn Abi Waqqas, and Zayd, these were mentioned by Ad-Dahhak. Now the shuhada, witnesses or martyrs, is the plural of shahid, and are said to refer to the prophets exclusively by Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, or according to some that they are those who are witnesses in the sight of their Lord against themselves, that they have faith in Allah, said by Mujahid. When Allah says you should know, this is the completion of all of the witnesses. As said by Ad-Dahhak and Muqatil, you should know, all the witnesses, that this earthly life is sport and play. Meaning it's only a small portion, it's filled with deceptions. And this is the state of the unbeliever in his earthly life, because his life is filled with distractions and play and the ornamentation of his earthly life, and boasting about what he has to his neighbors, stacking up wealth and children, and all of this without realizing its fleeting nature. But this is a long journey for those who are the friends of Allah, who strive in His service with His wealth. He uses his children, his wealth, and his services to fill out Allah's rights, and he expends his time, not like the unbelievers on these things, but he looks to the actions here and also turns to the actions of the hereafter as well. And this is made clear, like when Allah says, this is like the example of the pasture that is given rain, and it astonishes the kuffar. Now in this expression, kuffar is the plural of kafir, but kafir here refers to the farmer, because kafir means to cover something. So the farmers here are referred to as kuffar because farmers cover seeds in the earth, and so they cover it. The farmers are astonished and happy with the vegetation that comes from that rain that gives pasture. Then when it dries out, they see that it's yellowed after it had been green. And this is the state of this earthly life. So they understand this. The earthly life is but sport and play. As mentioned in ayat 24, this is mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf as well, in ayat 45. And in the hereafter is a great punishment for the enemies of Allah, and forgiveness from Allah, and pleasure for His friends and the people who obey Him. This has already been mentioned, part of it, in Surah Ali Imran, the 3rd Surah, ayat 185. Up until the statement, that is the favor of Allah. So He makes it clear that no one enters paradise except by the favor of Allah and His mercy. And nothing comes about in the earth nor in yourselves of the sending down of rain, or the drought, or the lack of crops, or the loss or destruction of crops, nor in yourselves from different illnesses, nor the children, except that it's in the clear book, meaning the preserved tablet, before it even comes about. So what happens in your souls and such has been given, and that is easy for Allah, meaning to establish that over everything else and to look after all of that is easy for Allah. So do not mourn on that which He, Allah, gave you the earthly life, and do not rejoice in that which He has given you, so that way you forget what's coming in the hereafter. So He, Allah, has given you your portion, and know that it's from knowledge that it's necessary that you be tested, and you be tested with very little, and that you be tested with some mourning and some difficulty and some trials and some tribulations. And Allah says, all of what and this has been mentioned, all of what comes after of the ayat that we've discussed have already been mentioned in Surah An-Nisa, the 4th Surah, ayat 37. And that's with that which is said regarding stinginess. We've already discussed much of this in those previous ayat as well. Allah is enriched beyond measure and wealthy, so He doesn't need His slaves, worthy of praise. So His friends praise Him. And we've already discussed the meaning of these two names in Surah Al-Baqarah, the 2nd Surah, 267. And likewise, this expression فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ, according to Nafi' ibn Amr, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ. So it does not have huwa. Then after this, the exalted, when he says, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدَ فِيهِ بَأْسٌ شَدِيدٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ وَلِيَعْلَمَ اللَّهُ مَن يَنصُرُهُ وَرُسُلَهُ بِالْغَيْبِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَوِيٌّ عَزِيزٌ. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا وَإِبْرَاهِيمَ وَجَعَلْنَا فِي ذُرِّيَّتِهِمَا النَّبُوَّةَ وَالْكِتَابَ فَمِنْهُم مُهْتَدٍ وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. ثُمَّ قَفَّيْنَا عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ بِرُسُلِنَا وَقَفَّيْنَا بعيسى بن مريم وآتيناه الإنجيل وجعلنا في قلوب الذين اتبعوه رأفة ورحمة ورهبانية ابتدعوها ما كتبناها عليهم إلا ابتغاء رضوان الله فما رعوها حق رعايتها فآتينا الذين آمنوا منهم أجرهم وكثير منهم فاسقون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وآمنوا برسوله يؤتكم كفلين من رحمته ويجعل لكم نورا تمشون به ويغفر لكم والله غفور رحيم. لئلا يعلم أهل الكتاب ألا يقدرون على شيء من فضل الله وأن الفضل بيد الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. We've already sent our messengers with clear signs, and we sent down with them the book and the book and the measure, so that they might judge between the people and establish justice. And we sent down iron, that has in it a great power indeed and benefit for people, and so that Allah might know who will help him and his messengers in the unseen. Indeed, Allah is powerful and mighty. We've already sent Nuh, Ibrahim, and we made in their descendants prophethood and the book. For among them are guided ones, and many of them are rebellious sinners. Then we sent on the heels of them of our messengers, and we sent after that on their heels Isa ibn Maryam, and we gave him the Injil, and we put in the hearts of those who follow them tenderness and mercy and monasticism that they brought about, that we did not write for them to do, except that they might seek the pleasure of Allah, and they did not carry out the obligation of this matter as its right deserved. And we gave those who believe from among them the reward, and many of them are rebellious sinners. You who believe, fear Allah, and believe in His Messenger. He comes to you with copious mercy, copious amounts of His mercy, and He has made for you a light that you move around with, and so that He might forgive you. And Allah is the forgiving, the compassionate. So that the people of the book might know that they don't have any power at all over the favor of Allah, and that the favor is in the hand of Allah, who He gives to who He wills. And Allah is the possessor of the magnificent favor. Surah Al-Hadid, the 57th surah, ayat 25 to 29. And when the Exalted One has mentioned, and He sent messengers with clear signs, meaning ayat and proofs. He sent with them the book, meaning the explanation of the different revealed laws and judgments that they had. As for the mizan, the measure, refers to the justice, as said by Ibn Abbas and Qatada, and that which is measured with, as said by Ibn Zayd and Muqatil. And He commanded them to command with justice, so that the people might establish justice and truth. And He sent down the iron, meaning that Allah sent down with Nabiyuna Adam alayhi salam. He sent down the iron. And He sent down these different things, said by Ibn Abbas. Now, sent down means that He created it. He brought it about. So He gave it to him to use. Just like when Allah says, وَأَنزَلَ لَكُم مِّنَ الْأَنْعَامِ ثَمَانِيَةَ أَزْوَاجٍ, and He created for you from the cattle 8 pairs. Anzala is used, but does not in this sense mean to send down, as given in Surah Al-Zumar, the 39th surah, ayah 6. In it is great power, meaning that it can be used for war and hindering the enemies. And it has benefits for man, meaning in tools and other implements that people can use benefit for utensils and other things. And so that Allah might know the people who establish the truth, so people might use justice. And Allah will establish who helps Him by fighting in His cause and helps His religion. And that is that He has commanded this in all the books which He sent. And this has already been mentioned so that He might know in a number of places. And the unseen, meaning that He, Allah, sees all things, but the creation does not. And the judgments of the hereafter. So He shows this. So people strive and are rewarded for whoever obeys in the unseen. And we have made in the descendants of these two, Nuh and Ibrahim, prophethood and the book, meaning all the books. From among them, meaning from among these descendants, is a guided one, and from among them are rebellious sinners, unbelievers, and disobedient ones, as said by Ibn Abbas and Muqatil. Then we sent on the heels of these ones, meaning they were followed up from the times of Nabiyuna Nuh alayhi salam and Nabiyuna Ibrahim alayhi salam and their descendants. They were followed up by other messengers. And they were followed up by Isa ibn Maryam, and he is the last of the prophets of the children of Israel. And we put in the hearts of those who follow him, meaning the Hawariyun and others from those who follow on his religion, we put in their hearts tenderness, which we've already defined in Surah An-Nur, the 24th surah, 2. Just as Allah has described the companions of our Prophet ﷺ, when he said, رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ, that they are merciful among themselves. Surah Al-Fath, the 48th surah, 29. And there is monasticism that they innovated. So this monasticism that they innovated, they were not told to do so. They exaggerated, meaning they exaggerated in worship. They bore certain burdens on themselves and prevented themselves from certain foods and drinks and clothing. Some of them forbade themselves marriage, and they worshipped in the mountains away from the people. Allah says, we didn't write this for them. We didn't make this compulsory for them, except for seeking the face of Allah, meaning we only told them to seek the favor of Allah. We only wrote for them that they would seek the pleasure of Allah. And this was mentioned and discussed by Ali ibn Isa, Rumani, and Qatada, and Zayd ibn Aslam. So this was not written for them. They were not written to have monasticism for them. But it came among them, and they took it as an act of obedience, seeking the pleasure of Allah. So they sought to obey using things that they innovated that Allah did not write this for them. And then Allah caused this to become a burden upon them and compulsory for them. And so they put that upon themselves. Just as when the human being declares a fast for himself, that's not farad for him. If he makes an oath upon himself to do it, it becomes compulsory for him. Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la, the elder, has said, now the innovation that happened here was by action. It is the oath that people make and what requirements they put on themselves. And then the action enters into it. And the vast majority of the ayat are established by this point. So all of who innovate some type of action, everyone who innovates something to try to get near to Allah in word or deed, then it becomes a statement where he has to carry it out and complete the action. So he didn't order them to do this by that it will be pleasing to him, nor other than them. So they did not carry it out according to its rights. So the monasticism that they innovated, as said by the vast majority, they didn't carry it out. They replaced their deen. They changed it, as said by Ati al-Awfi. And they fell short. And they also fell short because of their rejecting faith in the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that he was sent to them, as said by Zajjaj. They innovated many innovations of the monastic people in their own monasticism. So they traveled the path of those that came before them, as said by Ibn Abbas. So we gave those who believed from among them their reward, meaning those who believed in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and many of them were rebellious sinners who did not believe in Allah, and that those who believe were believers in Nabiyyuna Isa alayhi salam, and the rebellious sinners were unbelievers, and that those who believed that innovated monasticism, they believed, but the rebellious sinners, they followed on other than a clear rule, and they went astray. You who believe, fear Allah and believe in His Messenger. The vast majority and great body of scholars of commentary say that this is speaking to the Jews and the Christians who should believe and did believe in Nabiyyuna Isa alayhi salam and Nabiyyuna Musa alayhi salam. So those who believe, who truly believe, are being told, now fear Allah and believe in this messenger as well. The messenger being Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these are the believers from the people of the book. He shall give you the great helpings of mercy that are in abundance, and which save you from the destruction for the acts of disobedience that you have done. Kifl in definition has already been given in Surah An-Nisa, the 4th Surah, Ayat 85. And the intent here is on account of their iman in the prophets and their belief in the hereafter and their belief in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they have these two portions, that they shall be given a double portion of mercy. One is the reward in the hereafter, and the second is the reward of now. And he will make for you a light. That light is the Quran, as said by Ibn Abbas. And then the light that they shall go across the sirat with, as said by Ibn Abbas as well. And the guidance and the faith, as said by Mujahid and Ibn Sa'ib. So that you will know. Meaning the people of the book are to know, those who don't believe in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that they have no way of constricting the favor of Allah from those who do want to believe. And He knows those who do not, Allah knows those who do not believe and those who believe. And those who do not believe have no reward for them, no portion in the favor of Allah. And the favor of Allah is in His hand to give to who He wills. He gives it to the believers. And this is a clear statement that's understood by the vast majority as referring to such. Now some have said that this was sent down on the Muslims that were among the people of the book. Those who we gave them the book from before, and they believe in it. Up until the statement, these people, الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ هُمْ بِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. Those who they were given the book from before, and they believe in it. Up until the statement, أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْتَوْنَ أَجْرَهُمْ مَرَّتَيْنِ. And those who they were given their reward twice. Surah Al-Qasas, the 28th Surah, ayat 52 to 54. So these people used to boast on the Muslims that they had a greater reward. And that felt difficult for the Muslims. But Allah sent these ayat down to counteract that, showing that they'd lost some reward, as mentioned by Ibn Abbas and Muqatil. So this statement in the end here is speaking to the Muslims. And here Allah is giving two rewards for those who believe from the people of the book. And those who do not believe from the people of the book know that they have no power over those who do believe. And Allah gives His favor to who He so chooses. And He favored you over all the rest of the creation. Qatada said, when this ayah was sent down, you who believe, fear Allah and believe in His messenger until the end, the people of the book felt great. The people of the book felt great envy towards the Muslims. And so Allah sent, this is so that the people of the book might know who has the reward. Close quote. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم أستغفر الله إن الله غفور رحيم الحمد الرحيم. We have reached the end of the 27th juz, as I had hoped, and we've reached now the 28th juz. So inshallah we will be stopping here, and this is a week before the moon will be sighted for Ramadan. So we're a week away from the end of Sha'ban. We'll be stopping here inshallah, and we hope to be returning on the first Friday after Eid al-Fitr of 1437 inshallah. Now, are there any questions over this large two surahs that we've covered today? Yes.
Regarding the people of the paradise, once they've entered paradise, will they still be able to recall their memory of their earthly life and the deeds that they did in the earthly life?
The question is, those who've entered the paradise, will they be able to recall this life and the deeds that they did in the earthly life? Alhamdulillah. Well, in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, the Hur Ain, or the young boys, are saying this is a reward for what you used to do. So that would mean that they must have some recollection of whatever good deeds they've done, because they're being told this is a reward for what you used to do. All right. Are there any final questions? No? Okay, so we'll stop here. I say Subhanak Allahumma wa hamdika wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk innahu ghafurur rahim alhamdulillah rahimin wa la ilaha illa Allah. Assalamu alaikum.